Oh, you're very welcome to another great helping of stage race action in Switzerland, or is it? We've got a few different things about this year's 89th edition of Tour de Suisse, the first of which is that we're starting, in actual fact, in Lombardia in Italy. It's a loop in and around the most mountainous province in all of Italy. It's well, 147 kilometers in total. Here's the recent list of winners of this race, one of whom is back to see if he can make it a second title. Richard Carapaz is going for glory for the EF Education Easy Bow squad. Not the biggest name in the field, though. World champion is among them. UAE Team Emirates are defending the title. Of course, last year, 2025, Joao Almeida, fabulous final ramp to glory. Final stage time trial. And at the death, and in the final, the eighth and final stage, he unseated Kevin Buchanan to take the trophy for the UAE Team Emirates squad. I wonder what Tadej Pogacar can do about emulating that achievement. Just 5 stages for you this year. It's a little bit of a change to the usual program, but it's a very interesting one. Today's stage, as you can see, 147 kilometers. Then we go to Locarno for day 2. Stage 3, very much in Switzerland at this point, by the way. Loop in and around Bad Ragaz. We'll be taking the waters and taking in some great mountainous action. Got time trial coming up on the 4th and penultimate stage before the most challenging day of the week, the Queen stage, Villars-sur-Olon. Western part, the French part of Switzerland, will conclude this 89th edition of Tour de Suisse. The various staging posts. We're just south of the very easternmost point of Switzerland, and the loop in and around Sondrio today. Demanding opening stage. Is it going to be one for the GC riders? Will it be one for the puncher? Certainly going to be a test for them. Initial flat section of about 55 kilometers, then constantly up and down from then. 2 category 2 climbs to be dealt with. We've also got the interesting innovation of the Tiso kilometer, 2 bonus sprints on offer within a kilometer of that. And then down to the back end of the stage, which includes various loops to go and find a couple of 3rd category climbs. Second of those, the 4th and final categorized climb of the day, is the Bordigi climb. Over 12% on average, and the summit of that will be reached within 4.5 kilometers of the finish line, back in Sondrio after 147 kilometers of great racing action today. That's what's in prospect. This is the profile of the day. Stage of 2 halves, as you can see, pretty lumpy in the back end. It's going to be able to survive those grippers. Where we're heading out of. Sondrio really is a remarkably beautiful part of the world. Has played host to Giro d'Italia on no less than 12 occasions. The administrative centre of the province of Sondrio in Lombardia. Famous for its terraced vineyards, renowned wines, the Valtellina Superiore and Sforzato di Valtellina. Nebbiolo grapes abound here. Ancient Alpine trade route. Schiat with Bresauro. Required cuisine. It's our host town. There is the man that all the eyes are on, as you might expect, the world champion at the head of an absolute crack UAE Team Emirates XRG squad. As if he wasn't strong enough already, his team is really fighting fit and raring to go. Tadej Pogacar's first appearance at this event, and of course this race dovetails nicely with the women's event as well. Each of the 5 stages is preceded by the women's equivalent. Plenty of duplication amongst the teams as well. The Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad. Primoz Roglic, the other super prominent Slovenian, making his debut in Tour de Suisse, as indeed is Tadej Pogacar. The obscene Premier Tech squad. Mathieu van der Poel looking most exercised and amused and entertained by the antics of their mascots and former world champion. Be looking to see what he can do about unseating Pogacar, maybe today. Carapaz trying to keep its rubber sign up this week. All the smiles for the Ecuadorian veteran on the podium. 139 riders reporting for duty, 20 teams in total. Mauro Schmidt among 7 national road race champions. And for the host nation, if not the host stage nation, if you will, Mauro Schmidt's going to get a lot of attention this week. It could be a good stage for him, actually, today.
Yeah, super special. I grew up here and I know everything here, so it's pretty special to start this Tour de Suisse here, and for sure will be emotional today.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I had a good start with keeping, and was good to get back into the rhythm a little bit after my break after the Spring Classics. And yeah, I had some good training, so yeah, I need to see in the race how the legs are. It's always a bit different. I think a lot of guys in the bunch have maybe a bit of a better race rhythm at the moment, but yeah, the shape is definitely good, and yeah, I'm looking forward to these stages.
Yeah, I think with this parkour it's very important to stay in front because it's very technical, so the positioning will be super important, and also for the breakaway I think will not be easy to go because we have only like 50k flat, and then we start immediately with an arc climb, and then always left and right, so I think it will be a GC day today.
Well, we will see how the rest are, how is the field here. For sure is the level should be high. It's yeah, 2 weeks before the tour, so yeah, we will see. We need to find for good sensations in the legs, and yeah, if we can, we need to do the best race, and then we see the results. Yeah.
The road will decide. That seems to be the closest to a consensus we're going to get. These images from the start earlier on today, at the finish line, by the way, following the women's race. And, plenty of familiar figures. Van Dillier, will we see him on the front, chasing down the breakaway, or maybe up the road in the breakaway? One or other of those roles, typical for the former Swiss national road race champion. As I said, 139 riders reporting for duty today. Just one non-starter, Alessandro Pinarello from the NSN cycling team, unfortunately forced to scratch before things got underway. A few Pogacar fans in the crowd, as well you might expect. The bike madness part of Italy. And they appreciate greatness. 20 teams, including all 18 World Tour squads, setting off for this first stage of the week. 147 kilometers. Particularly long stages. I can tell you the longest stage is 157.3 or something, and the next longest is 157.2. Picking up the live images at the road, I can tell you that it was a busy enough start to the affair. All flat roads. It was certainly a very brisk pace, but quite quickly a group of 2 riders established itself clear of the peloton, and that 2 riders. That group indeed, Cedric Boulens and of Lotto Intermarché, and Frederick de Versnes, fresh from, or at least we'll see how fresh he is, but certainly appears to be fresh from his heroics in the Giro d'Italia. Now, interesting situation because Antonio Tiberi is not where he'd like to be. We also heard that Alfonso Elalio, so is this a problem for Tiberi or Elalio? Well, it appears to be Antonio Tiberi, and he's got the team around him trying to support him. Well, he's certainly one of those riders that we were looking towards to see what he could achieve today. And clearly these hills, and we're on the first of our classified climbs of the week. Boulens overhauled by the peloton. Tim Wellens on the front of the main group, and they're setting a ferocious pace in pursuit of a breakaway group. Now, I suspect number is just 1. Out for clarification of that, but last time we heard it was 2 riders clear of the field. Yeah, Bullen's, it's Diverseness that's clear at the moment, and the gap is coming down. It's coming down at a rate of knots under this relentless pace set by the Belgian national road race champion, Tim Wellens, and he's got the team lined out in front of him, and potentially an opportunity to eliminate one of the biggest GC threats to Tadej Pogacar this week, Antonio Tiberi. That is a surprise, a shock. And you know what? A lot of the riders coming to this event on the back of training camps, often at altitude. Tour de Romandy, the last appearance in action with a number pinned on for Antonio Tiberi of the Bahrain Victoria squad. And in that respect, he has that in common actually with Tadej Pogacar, but Pogacar seems to be altogether in better shape right now. We'll keep tabs on that one, but it can often be a little bit of a shock to the system when you go back into racing. Although, I think out one of our co-commentators here, one of the commentating for one of the other channels, Matthias Frank, the very well-known former Swiss road race star, great climber, great top 10 GC man himself, and he said that a lot of riders really like what the organisers have done with this event this year, paring it back from 8 to 5 days, and a lot of the stages relatively short, and it comes at a perfect time in preparation for the upcoming Tour de France. You come from altitude, get yourself into a little bit of a racing mode with this one, and then it's not such a long wait from then to the Tour de France to try and maintain that form that you've worked so hard to achieve. So it seems as if the organisers have certainly been listening to what the riders want. They've also been listening to the host towns and the villages, towns, cities and regions that are interested in playing host to one of the world's biggest World Tour stage races, one of the most important and venerable and most prestigious titles in world road racing. And they've heard that there's a great advantage actually in having a start and a finish location in exactly the same place. Sort of a double whammy, isn't it? More bang for your buck. And they feel like they get more. And then to add in another race, you've got the women's and the men's race as well. You're kind of doubling up. Loads of extra opportunity and stimulation and entertainment for the race fans and interested and curious onlookers that might visit the local region. And of course as well, they've got all of those extra hotel rooms that they have to fill for double the amount of teams. It can add to logistical challenges for the race organisers, I can tell you that. They pick up the back of the peloton on this technical and demanding. That's Clement Rousseau, by the way, an event debutant. 47 debutants, I believe, maybe 46 because we didn't have Pinarello starting today. There's the situation. Diverseness taking the top points at the first of our classified climbs of the week, ahead of the charging peloton led by the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad in line astern. Team Wellens setting the tempo. Tadej Pogacar staying close to the front. Brandon McNulty among his cohort of supporters and willing team workers. Jonathan Narvaez, fresh from stage-winning glory at Giro d'Italia. Again, how fresh will he be? He certainly went very, very deep, didn't he, in pursuit of stage honours. Went for the points classification, went for the mountains for a bit. And Diverseness too had a very busy May with his exploits in the Giro d'Italia, now etched into the annals of Corsa Rossa as a result of not least his wonderful stage-winning success. Let's get just a look at this tarmac change there. Looked okay, didn't it? A relatively conservative approach there, just using half the width of the road, not going in too deep. Diverseness completes the descent off the first of our climbs of the week. Again, we've got 3 more climbs today. There is a mountains jersey on offer at the end of the day, of course. Potentially a visit to the podium for Frederick Diverseness, should he survive up and over the top of the second climb of the day. He looked odds on for that one. Our second climb, the Triangia It's a 4.1 kilometre, 7.2% average. The one they've just been up, by the way, 3 kilometres at 10.3, so short, sharp gripper, steeper. Maybe not specifically to the talents of Fredrik Diversnes. That 4 kilometres at 7 and a bit percent might suit him a little bit better, and that comes with 66 kilometres remaining, so we're about 12k to the foot of that climb. Before we get there, though, and not too long from, about 4k from here, we will have the first of our Tissot kilometre sprints. Again, I'll go over this at length during the week, as much to remind myself as anyone else, but basically you've got 2 sprints in the space of a kilometre. I don't think the first one's going to be a sprint, is it? Because Diversnes looks odds on to claim the 3 bonus seconds on general classification at the Tissot sprint. And if he wins the second one as well, he'll be guaranteed a trip to the podium to collect a very nice Tissot watch, and he'll have 6 seconds in total reduced from his general classification total. He'll be ahead, basically. And the main peloton presumably is going to put itself back together again. And we're going to be fascinated to see what where the whereabouts is of some of the big names. We're hearing as well Attila Valter from the Bahrain Victoria squad out the back. Now, was Valter back looking for Tiberi? First of the Bahrain riders we heard in a bit of trouble was actually Afonso Lalio, but again, it's kind of patchy information, and we're not quite 100% sure whether that's Lalio going back for Tiberi, Valter going back for Tiberi, or whether it was even going back to the team car. You're never quite 100% sure. At any rate, as information comes to us, we'll put a little asterisk around everything. Jarno Widar at the back here, the Lotto Intermarché rider, and his teammate Boulens in the break for much of the day. Relatively short stages. There's a general trend in world cycling, isn't there, to sort of reduce the length of stages. When you look at the Grand Tours, Giro d'Italia, particularly Tour de France, over the last 30 years, it's kind of gone from lots and lots of stages over 200 kilometers to just a few. Time trial kilometrage is also reduced. Very often the number of climbs and the severity of those climbs has gone up a little bit, so it's kind of sort of skewed the dial a little bit towards the mountain goats. So an extra effort had to be made there by Widar. Let's get a look at this from the helicopter. Great image, isn't it? Sort of tilt and shift vibe about that one. .75 to go, and at the moment you've got a peloton of no more than about 40 riders. That, I suspect, is going to swell before we get on to the next climb proper. And it's going to be a yo-yo. Oh, and that's a tough old day out for all the way here for the Team Picnic Post NL rider, Matthew Dinham. Australian, already out, abandoning on day one, so we hope it's nothing too serious. So the battle is joined on day one of Tour de Suisse, this 89th edition of an event that can trace its lineage back to 1933. First win back then for Max Buller, the Austrian. Pasquale Fornaro of Italy is the most successful in the history of the event. Here's 3 points, or indeed 3 bonus seconds for Fredrik Diversnes. He's first through the first of those 2 banners within a kilometre. Interesting to see whether anyone fancies pinching the 2 and 1 bonus seconds on offer from the main peloton behind. I suspect the UAE squad might just escort Tadej Pogacar through. Diversnes is quite the beast, isn't he? A stunning stage victory in Giro d'Italia. He'll always have Milan. Heading up that group of 4 riders, 3 Italians I think, wasn't it, and himself went to the line. And another great famous victory in Italy. He loves racing in Italy, so another opportunity today in Italy to claim a famous win with just a minute advantage. I think he's going to need a bit more than that, but he knows how to measure out his effort. Remarkable ability to maintain strength all the way through to the finish line of even longer stages than this. So now he's got a 6 seconds head start. Let's get a look at that. It's, yep, today Pogacar takes the 2, and I think the 1 going to Grossschartner there, the Austrian. So the UAE not in any way threatened there. Let's see if something similar happens at the second of those climbs. That's those sprints. That's presumably under the banner of the first one for the main peloton. Charging along. He's got a gap of 1 minute and 6 seconds, so it's fair to say that they're probably going about 50-55 kilometers an hour in that main peloton behind it. Decathlon joining the fun for a little bit of chasing. And they're going to prevent the world champion from taking another. It's the Scotsman on the front. It's a role he's done so much in his career. Wellens too. And Pogacar happy enough just to stretch his legs here a little bit. There is a 1 second on offer too. And it would appear that that has gone the way of Matthew Riccatello, the young American favourite for the Decathlon CMA CGM team, or Chuma Chugum as some would have it. Probably leave it at that. So 4 second head start, as if he really needed it. How much of an effort did he make? He's riding on a bit here. I encourage Brandon McNulty just to, well, that will frighten everyone. And Tadej Pogacar does love to do things a little bit differently. Lidl Trek, just a little bit of a response there. They've got the likes of Thibaut Nace today. Let's get a look at the the sprint 1 diverseness from Pogacar, with Grossschartner just following dutifully in line astern. Then Riccatello decided he wanted to get in the fun as well, claimed a handy bonus second. It's diverseness that gets the watch though. It's not going to be a GC threat, of course. Frederick Diverseness, he's going for stage honours today, and maybe, just maybe, pitch for the Mountains jersey. So Riccatello has joined in this one, and Brandon McNulty, I think, has been encouraged to press on a little bit here. And why not? Let's see what is going to occur. And they're straight into the second climb of the day. We've got a really, really significant little break establishing itself. Main peloton behind. Fraction, I mean, you call that a main peloton? It's only a group of about 30 odd riders. It's reducing quick. Speaking of reducing quick, it's a dwindling advantage for our man up front, because Diverseness finding himself leaking time significantly. This is certainly the steepest lower element of the hill. It's a 7% hill, and I would venture to suggest that's probably a little bit more than 7% at the early point of this climb for Diverseness. And try and measure that effort though. Remarkable ability. Yeah, that's what I say. He does like Italy, because of course he took a fabulous stage victory, long range attack, looked as for all the world as if he was going to be caught, but they didn't quite catch him, and that was in last year's Tirreno Adriatico. And among those riders who didn't quite manage to get back on terms was Mathieu van der Poel. Not sure the whereabouts of van der Poel right now. I'd be surprised if he's not in there. Back of this main peloton, though, it does conclude or Luis Aular. He's got a fine sprint on him and is one of those sprinters who can climb a little bit. Meanwhile, Niels Pollitt of the UAE squad calls for the team car. Utterly unconcerned. Well, he grab a couple of bottles, and if they do close this one down to his teammates up front, and they'll have a little bit of extra sustenance available. Oscar Riese back in here. Kind of be surprised if Van der Poel wasn't. But we'll see. Pogacar's shaking a leg here a little bit, causing all sorts of consternation. He's got the legs to follow. I think that's Bajoli, by the way, the local man. I mean, absolutely fired up. Man, proud native of Sondrio. What would it mean to him? And oh no, here he goes, would you believe it? First man up to Fredrik de Versnes. Well, they clipped a minute off that advantage in the space of about a couple of kilometres, and it's going to be Tadej Pogacar now. EF Education Easy Post. What's the likes of Carapaz, Albanese and others got in terms of a response? Have clearly spotted the danger. They want to be present. They're not going to allow Tadej Pogacar to just sort of float off the front. I mean, it's easier said than done, and I talk about the chess on wheels and the tactics of it all, but when you've got the most efficient lungs in the world and you can produce the power on the climbs, well, it's so difficult to go with it. And de Versnes he will resist it for as long as he can, but I wonder just how much longer he's going to be able to. This will ease up a bit. Carapaz has joined the battle to try and make his way across, and it's an opportunity as well for Vacek. Lidl Trek clearly want to see what they can achieve today. Not Bajolu and there, Vacek, and now we're seeing McNulty, Brandon McNulty. Well, initially there, sees other riders going across. Roglic is already in the fight. What a scrap we're having. Paul Double is the British climber in the purple colours, has joined Roglic. That's Bajoli, Sondrio native, who's dreaming of glory in front of his home fans, but he's got his teammate up front, Riccatello, now, who was fifth in this race in 2024. Non-finisher last year. But Riccatello knows the race, likes the race, and he is for the Decathlon CMA CGM squad. Super option for overall honours this week. De Versnes, as the gradient has eased ever so slightly, has settled in on the wheel of Tadej Pogacar, and I don't think there's any responsibility whatsoever on De Versnes to give Pogacar a turn at all. He may think that there would be a value in that on in the valley beyond it, but well, we've got two tough climbs to come after this one. He's got to get up and over this one just yet. So the most challenging element of this second climb of the day was certainly in the early point. Sort of eases out to about 7.26, that kind of number. Percent, that is. We're not, what am I saying? We're not quite on the climb just yet. This is a climb before the climb. So the measuring, I suppose, of the Tranja climb, it could be measured a little bit longer if you like. So De Versnes will do very well indeed to hang on with Tadej Pogacar once they get to the. Oh, he's gone already. Barely got the sentence out of my mouth. As the world champion has decided, you know what? There's only 70k to go, and he's just thrilled to be going bike racing. Loves racing in Switzerland, of course. Tour de Romandie, his most recent outing. Well, he won it for fun, didn't he? It was about 4 stage victories overall and the points classification. Only finished second in the mountains classification. I doubt he'd mind that. So Tadej Pogacar settles into the fight. And what do the rest do? Is this a moment of hubris? Well, this is when to take a risk, isn't it? In his first visit to Tour de Suisse. The important business of July. A little way in the distance just yet. De Versnes will just drop back into the clutches of Carapaz, who in turn finds himself back in amongst Bajoli, Vacek, Double, Roglic, Riccatello. And they're forming the counter alliance. De Versnes, I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to stay with this after his long reach out. And yeah, this second proper classified climb of the week yet to be Yet to be begun. Yet to begin. Would be a nicer way of saying it. Meanwhile, this is next group on the road with the likes of Callum Scott. Well, this might be a little bit further back. Well, Callum Scott's certainly on a good day. Mara Schmidt, we expect naturally enough great things off this week in his home national tour. Corbin Strong is proving very strong in the climbs here. Ewan Costu, we certainly would have expected that from the Groupama FDJ rider, that he would be able to go in this kind of company. Louis Vervaeke as well. So I'm not sure this is Group 3. I suspect this is some way adrift of the front of the race. Into the valley, through the tree-lined mountain roads, the lower slopes of the Alps. Everywhere you look, if you crane your neck and turn through 180 degrees owl-like, all you see are various different terraced fields of vines dedicated to viticulture. So, Tadej Pogačar, well, they've kind of billed this particular stage as a bit of mini Il Lombardia. We're in Lombardy. We've got rolling roads, short, steep, demanding climbs. Different time of year, of course, and the weather's, yeah, the weather conditions. I mean, it gets up to about 28 degrees Celsius today. Not much in the way of wind. It is hot, really, really warm for the riders today. But it's a little mini Il Lombardia in its own way. And of course, he's won that on 5 occasions. He's the reigning champion of Lombardia. He's won it the last, what, 5 years in a row? Yeah. Gap out to 35 seconds. What do the riders behind, so what can they do? Along the climb, you need to manage your resource and sharing the workload. It's important, but how you actually sort of parse that out is, well, it's less tactical, isn't it, than it will be once they get into the valley roads. But it isn't, there aren't too many of those. It's just kind of going up or it's going down from now to the finish line. I'm not sure if this if Tour de Suisse has ever started outside Italy before. It's had several sojourns into Italy. It's far from unusual that it will finish in Austria. Indeed, Sulden was a very popular destination for several years up the big mountain there in the Austrian Alps. But it's not in recent memory has there been a start outside of Switzerland in Italy. So this is certainly an interesting development. Tomorrow's stage, of course, sort of reaches into the Italian part of Italy. It's a lakeside ride tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely epic to look at. Really pretty. Starting and finishing in Locarno on the shores of Lake Maggiore. Has a little dip down towards Lugano onto the Lake Lugano. And then goes out to try and find a few climbs as well. It's not that dissimilar actually to today, although the climbs do start quite early on in tomorrow's stage. And a couple of short, sharp shocks at the back end. The denouement could well be a little bit deeper into tomorrow's stage, but it's nonetheless quite similar. Stage 3 is Bad Ragaz, into the German part of Switzerland, if you will, which is sort of, you know, by far the biggest element of the country. That will be a super challenging day as well. It's a big demanding opening climb. Well, I say super challenging. It's a demanding start to the day, but then it does ease up. and then down towards flat conclusion. Just one stage for the sprinters this week, nailed on stage the sprinters, and therefore ergo a huge sprint talent, and of course a number of sprinters who are thinking about honing their legs ahead of the battle in France in July. So we do have the likes of Caden Groves, Mathieu van der Poel, his teammate of course, who can sprint a bit, Marijn van den Berg, Luc Lamperti, Alberto Dainese or Luis Aular, who we've seen. But it's not a sprint deep field. This is a sort of relentlessly climbing Tour de Suisse. It's more condensed. It's squeezed in terms of the number of stage opportunities that you've got to make your mark. It's also squeezed in terms of the kilometrage, the actual distance of the day. It looks to me it was that the second group on the road are about to be rejoined by the remains of the peloton and swell that group a little bit, but will there be reinforcements that can possibly control this 35 seconds? I mean, it almost looks like a training ride for Tadej Pogačar, and the kind of numbers that he puts out in training does look like racing for everyone else, doesn't it? And racing at an altogether different level. But it does seem, and this is a pattern that we've seen so often in his career, he has this incredible ability, and God knows he's had a lot of practice at this point, but he has this incredible ability to measure his effort just enough, just feed out enough power and not try and open up a huge advantage. Just ease his way into it and then make sure that he's got enough energy in hand for those final challenging 20 or 30 kilometers. Steals a little look across to the right once more, tries to get a sense of just where the chasers are. Team car, they'll be keeping him well abreast. Bajoli on the front with his teammate Vacek, double at the back. No, they haven't yet been claimed by the chasers. There's Richard Carapaz, number 31. Riccatello, young American climber, number 21. Roglic is in the middle of the group, the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe man. And the elder statesman of this particular group at 36 years of age, making his Tour de Suisse debut today. Indeed, Roglic, another man, hasn't had racing too much recently. His most recent outing as well was, of course, Tour de Romandy. Finished 18th on that occasion, 18th overall. And of course, he was supporting the interest then of Florian Lipovic. He finished second, ultimately, to Tadej Pogačar. It's almost like a win. Good day for Paul Double at the back here. The Livalula Jaco rider, the British rider, was lifted up into World Tour status this year and is seizing his opportunity. First Tour de Suisse for Double. Gap out to 53 seconds. Bajoli and Vacek, they know what they can do, and they just do what they can do. Brandon McNulty knows what he has to do. Just sit in the group, sit and wait, sit and wait. Finally, the UAE team car is unleashed. Not sure who's in the team car for the race for the team leader. We've got Andrea Hauptmann, Marco Marcato, and Simone Petrazzini are the DSs for the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad. So one of those is going up to join up with the pre-event favourites. Pogačar's only lost one bicycle road race this year. That was Paris-Roubaix. Finished a disappointing second to Wout van Aert. But he'd like that sprint back. Of course, the whole cycling world is disappointed with the news that Wout van Aert won't be able to take part in this year's Tour de France. That niggling elbow infection, requiring further convalescence. So quite a few riders have had their difficulties, haven't they, in advance of this event. Look at the way that this race is already blown to pieces. GC contenders announcing themselves. A lot of riders will be thinking, Tobias Foss, by the way, was the Net Company Ineos rider, Norwegian national time trial champion. I wonder where Andrew August is. Well, there's Wellens, who did so much to create a scenario for Tadej Pogačar to attack. I'd say there were a lot of frightened riders that's when they saw the Belgian champion and the absolutely fierce pace that he was setting on the first climb of the week, the Buglio in Monte. And now Wellens struggling to follow the tempo, but he's done the needful. He'll try and make his way to the finish line, find the right group. There's Mathieu van der Poel, by the way, in this group that also includes Sander de Pestel at the back here. Michael Matthews, another man back after injury, has a couple of stage victories, number 1, 3, 4 in the purple. Michael Matthews, former points winner as well of this event, and he will give a full examination of his abilities this week, just to prepare himself for Tour de France to come. 35-year-old Australian, what a great all-rounder he is and has been. He did do, of course, the Tour of Rhône-Alpes, but didn't one of those riders who failed to finish it. One of a huge number of riders who failed to finish the former Criterium du Dauphiné, now known as Tour of Rhône-Alpes. These races no longer clash. It was always like a one-day overlap, which meant that you couldn't do both. Not too many riders would want to do both, but I suppose if he didn't get the full number of days, and he did indeed only get 5 days last week, so 5 days this week, maybe that's the perfect scenario in terms of prep for Tour de France, especially for a rider coming off a long layoff. Different approaches. Brandon Rivera here in the first chase group on the road, or is it the second one at this stage? He was part of that group that included Pogačar. Bjorn Kurtz is the young British rider for the team Picnic Post NL. Paul Lapera, another fine climber, the Frenchman, for Decathlon CMA CGM. So biggest issue for Tadej Pogačar today is getting the radio to work. Well, he's got his team car at least handy. Yep. Does it still work? Thumbs up. Well, you could actually say yes, it's working in the radio. Or you could just lean in the window and chat to him. He's the one rider in world cycling who needs a radio the least, maybe. Always has a team car with him. So Mountains points claimed by Tadej Pogačar. I suspect the Mountains jersey could well be on his shoulders at the end of today. Cap out to 1 minute and 10 seconds. Oh, what a remarkable time it is in cycling, a remarkable time to witness the defeats and the extraordinary accomplishments of the 27-year-old Slovenian. 4 overall victories in Tour de France. Can he make it 5? Majoli happy enough to set the tempo here for Vacek. No surprise that there's no contribution from Brandon McNulty, but others I suspect are going to have to join in if they're to have any chance of challenging Tadej Pogačar. I suppose the question is how many riders in here believe that they can get on terms with Tadej Pogačar, and how many riders are already calculating that to finish runner-up to the great Slovenian, not just today but maybe at the end of the week, would in itself be just the summit of their ambitions, the best that they could hope to achieve, and that it would be folly to try for anything else. I'm not saying everyone's thinking like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if one or two are. Across the top of the climb, an opportunity now for various riders to link back up. And a little bit of a reprieve ahead of the battles to come. Not much, though. Across the top of this climb, we plunge down to a descent a little bit less than the climb they went up. And a couple of little very short little leg breakers, then another plunging descent, and then they've got a long reach up a climb which is not categorized, but is certainly going to challenge the abilities of a lot of the riders in here. If you look at the profile, the next 35 kilometers are going to be very demanding indeed once they get this descent dealt with. Pogacar, 6 points towards his bid for the Mountains title. Not that he's really thinking about the Mountains title. In fact, I suspect he'd be happy enough to hand it over. The trouble is, it kind of comes with as a natural consequence of his long-range attacks. We do have another sprint today, by the way. We had our 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds at each of the 2 TISO kilometer banners. Next appointment is the category 3 climb of the Ponte in Valtellina. It's a 1400 meter climb. It's almost 10%. It's a challenging one with just under 17 kilometers to go. And then we've got the Lidl sprint with points towards the points classification to be dealt with. That's just under 10 kilometers from the line. Then we've got the Bordigi climb, 1100 meters at over 12%. We'll summit that with just 4.5 kilometers of the day remaining. And then we've got a winding, sinuous descent down towards Sondrio. Couple of roundabouts in the final kilometer. I don't think that's going to be a major issue. These groups are going to be really quite small by the time we get to the finish line. I can tell you the women's race, which took place on a shorter but similar course, similar character, similar nature. Well, it was an absolute corker of a day. There was a lot of good racing in that one. If that's any sort of a signifier of what's in store for us in the men's race today and during the week, well, it's going to be a very entertaining week. Of course, trying to stay with Tim Wellens. Bjorn Kurt, the 21-year-old Briton. Kurt finding himself having to get on the gear. There's a lot of riders riding solo already. I tell you what, it's a shock to the system, isn't it, on day one? You find yourself battling like this. 21-year-old from Leeds, 10th overall in the Alula Tour at the beginning of the season. Has had a lot of racing recently. Did Eschborn Frankfurt at the beginning of May, and then that was it, really. So Bjorn Kurt, I suspect while the Team Picnic Post and L Squad did mention that he's a rider that could achieve something this week, I expect they would understand that coming back to racing after such a long layoff, never obvious exactly how the legs are going to respond. Tell you what, this is a great ride here by Baggioli. There's a lot of riders swinging off the back of this one. They've had to work hard to rejoin, and they're not necessarily in the entire Net Company Ineos squad, or at least 3 of them appear to be in, or is that 2 and 1 Uno X? Yeah, I think that's what it is. But at any rate, a couple of Net Company Ineos riders fighting hard to rejoin and get involved here. Tobias Foss with them, I believe. Meanwhile, radio sorted. Normal service resumed. Four Tour de France titles, as I mentioned. Has, of course, got his Giro d'Italia title. Not Vuelta just yet. Hasn't quite got the Triple Crown. Jonas has it, though. Wonder if he will fancy going to Spain at the end of the year. Right now, maximum focus on Tour de Suisse, followed by France. In Lombardia is on his programme. Goes in defence of his title. Vacek now to take it up after Baggioli's long shift. Carapaz, that punchy style, looking full of fight. It's been an injury and illness blighted year so far. He says that he will overcome all the various difficulties. To miss the Giro d'Italia, of course, Richard Carapaz, due to surgery to remove a perennial cyst. So that's painful, to say the least. And I mean, it's a painful part of the body, isn't it, for a racing cyclist? So yeah, he said he feels good on the bike right now. Spent some quality time at home. He's recovered, refreshed, looks full of fight. Trained well, able to sleep in the same bed night after night. Great for preparation. And a lot of riders will have a similar story to tell. This is, of course, a major appointment ahead of the Tour de France in its own right. Huge addition to any rider's palmarès. One of the most prestigious stage races on the World Tour calendar. And a race that has prestige and heritage interwoven. Gap out to a minute and a half. Is it going to reduce from now to the finish line? An opportunity for Tadej Pogačar to, well, pretty much ring fence the yellow jersey and claim it already on day one. I did mention the 5th and final stage is very much the Queen stage. Got 3 climbs up the big mountain in and around the finishing town, the starting and finishing town of remind me, Villard-Hollon. Chase group on the road, including Mathieu van der Poel. Well, the Dutchman knows Tim Wellens well enough. Just how far behind are they? There's an intensity and there's a business-like element to their work. Brandon Rivera here for Net Company Ineos. So no let up. Can they rejoin? And there will be riders that have had a bit of a mare today, that have struggled, that will find themselves going better as they work their way into the week, as they the benefits of the training camps and those trips to altitude start to take effect. Notable by their absence, aren't they? The Team Visma Lisa bike squad. Louis Barr, I think, on the front of this group. As we look at the chasers now. First group of chasers. There's Melissa bike on the front of that too. Okay, our Cineflex operator doing a great job of finding Group 3 on the road, and this is, I believe, the Van der Poel group, so Group 3. Oh, now that I say it, I don't see too many Alpecin jerseys in there, do you? So I suspect Van der Poel is further back, and that looked like Paul Lepera trying to join up with Group 2. Enric Mas there as well. GC hopeful, the Spaniards, 22 years of age, looking for special success. Anna Pelston is going well. Pestel indeed is going well. Matthew Brennan. No. Lemon, I think, in actual fact. Lorenzo Carmani, Italian rider for Groupama FDJ United, having a reasonable day. Not quite able to link up with the with that group, but looks like they're making a little bit of progress. So every chance they will rejoin. It's a long sort of gradual winch up in this phase of the race. Average speed is a little bit reduced, but it was an absolutely thundering start to the day. It's still well clear of 40 to north of 41 kilometers an hour, despite all the climbing they've got today. So 50 kilometers to go. We're just a little bit over on this first stage of the 89th running of Tour de Suisse, and it's none other than pre-event favourite Tadej Pogacar that has gone raiding today from about, what, 75 kilometers out. He decided enough was enough and attacked, he attacked to take a couple of bonus seconds at the second of our Tissot sprints. Just had a small group with him, including Matthew Riccitello. Saw that they had a bit of a gap and said, you know what, I think I might keep going here. Why not? Very, very quickly linked up with the one remaining rider from a two-rider breakaway. Frederick de Versnes was caught and pretty soon dropped. And the group assembled behind, and it's Carapaz has decided to go solo. Now look at this for a fighting performance here from the Ecuadorian, the only former champion of Tour de Suisse in this year's edition, and the 2021 winner, Richard Carapaz, after all his difficulties earlier on in the season. Looks like he's come out of this training block going pretty well, but can he close down a gap of almost a minute and a quarter to the world champion up front? Well, either way, it looks as if he's got some decent form. He's the only EF rider in there, playing his own card. And there's a great openness about today's stage, isn't there? There's not much in the way of tactics. The road is deciding this one. Pace is absolutely relentless, and it's good old-fashioned bike racing in its own way. And that Group 4 that is being indicated on screen, I do believe, at least to be confirmed, but I believe that's the Van der Poel group. we saw with Barre, the Visma Lease bike rider, doing a bit of work on the front. His teammate Kelderman is in this chase group here in yellow, down towards the back. Wilco Kelderman, who was 4th overall in Tour de Suisse in 2023, has joined up in a group of what, maybe 15, 16 riders, something like that, that are now pursuing this man and Tadej Pogacar, the race leader. Carapaz pulling faces, and he's settling into the battle here. Pretty quickly opening up a little bit of daylight on the chasers. What sort of effect is that having on the gap to Tadej Pogacar? Well, at the moment it looks as if it's going in the other direction. Not much of a gain just yet, so it hasn't been sort of lightning change in pace for Richard Carapaz, but it looks as if there's a fair investment of effort. Riccatello in the this group. Well, they've kind of, where's the cooperation? 2 riders for the decathlon. Tish Benoit there as well. Still struggling to get used to seeing Tish Benoit in a decathlon jersey. Vacek is covering this one from, is it Double or is it Pickering as well? 2 British riders for the Jaco Alula squad. Double the Englishman, Pickering is Scot. Carapaz has a little bit of daylight, but not a lot. This race on these climbs, this is an unclassified climb, by the way. There are more of those than there are classified. Metronomic progress is evidenced by the rhythm of the bling, slapping each shoulder. Pogacar hits the next downhill stretch. "11 days of racing this year for the world champion. He's won almost everything. I mean, he was second in Paris-Roubaix. Now he was only 6th, heavy quotes on that one, in a very short prologue of Tour de Romandie, but of course ahead of all the other GC favourites. Then he won the next 2 stages. Then he was, the only other blemish was 4th in stage to Orbe out in western Switzerland, in the French part, in Romandie. 4th, and then he won the last 2 stages and the overall, the points and everything else. And that was his last outing in racing. Meanwhile, as I say, Richard Carapaz has had complicated years so far. Not quite the preparation that he would have liked for the Tour de France, but nonetheless the 33-year-old from Ecuador, overall winner of this event in 21, former Giro d'Italia winner. His last outing before this week was to the Volta Catalunya, but of course he was 3rd in the GP Jippingen, the traditional warm-up race. It's going a long time now. And Carapaz, fine 3rd actually, came out of the blocks roaring, didn't he? They've closed that one down. They're kind of racing amongst themselves without really paying due credence, I suppose, to what's happening up front. So this is an opportunity perhaps for Carapaz to gain, what is he sitting at, about 27 seconds of an advantage, just under half a minute for Carapaz over this group. That's going to go further out. Carapaz doesn't seem to be making any inroads so far into the advantage of Tadej Pogacar, so it's kind of honours even between them. And this group fighting amongst themselves are only likely to be joined by riders from behind, albeit a bit of a gap, isn't there? So about a minute and a half to the next group on the road. And for Bart Levin, well, he knows he's got riders clear and closer to the front of the race. Not yet Gaffuri in this one. Yeah, this is the fourth group on the road at the moment. And number 87, Liam Stocks, the rider who, of course, have won the GP Jippingen in spectacular fashion. If you haven't heard, it's not exactly the traditional victory salute. It all went a bit pear-shaped, but I think in years to come, his debut win as a professional road racing cyclist for Liam Slock, it'll be something that he will, I think, come to cherish. Such a memorable way to win. Not slightly embarrassing at the moment, but of course it was a win, and being such a memorable debut success, I think everyone's going to remember that one for a long time. So Liam Slock, the Belgian rider, 25-year-old, clearly on some good form. In Group 4 on the road at the moment. And that group has fractured a little bit. Didn't see any sign of Wellens or Van der Poel, so they've slipped back further. It's like he just went for a little walk to the shops, and there he is, the world champion. And here he is, former Ecuadorian champion, the Giro d'Italia winner, Richard Carapaz, still losing time. Now finds himself a minute and a half down. We'll see if it settles down a little bit. They're ringing the bells. There's Santa Casa in all its glory. Sanctuary dedicated to the Nativity of the Virgin, built between 1646 and 1790. In fulfillment of a vow made following the plague of 1630. Remarkable structure. A few white tops in the distance. It's pretty hot work here in the foothills of the Alps, though. Very much in the green verdant vegetation sits at these lower altitudes. Very, very warm work indeed. A man at his work and enjoying every minute of it. There's a freedom about how he races, in large measure down to the physical advantage that he has. He's good technically, good descender, sits well on the bikes, a fabulous time trialist. But when he comes into his own in the mountains, he can just do his own thing. Enjoy the experience, enjoy the physical output at the end of the day. And I'm already planning for his arrival at the finish line solo. I think everyone is. It's advantage not going up in big chunks at the moment, but he's one-on-one against Carapaz at the moment. Gap out to his former, sort of the former group of riders who he was with as the peloton thinned out in pursuit of the early break of 2. Well, that's out, as you can see, to over 2.5 minutes, and still going in the right direction. So yeah, there's a freedom about how Tadej Pogačar races, and there's a reason for that. He's just that much better. Tactics become vaguely irrelevant. Carapaz arrives at that left turn. And he's just going in the wrong direction, but nonetheless, he's managing to fend off. He's put a minute into the group behind him. So this is a good investment here for Richard Carapaz. Long way to go, still 42 kilometers left. By no means certain that he'll hold off those chasers behind. They, I think, are there's a caution, isn't there? There's an awareness of just how demanding the final of this parkour is, and even if you want to stay at the front of the race, you need to know what's coming up. This is Kelderman at the back here, by the way. Whole double just in front. So on a reasonably good. Well, Mikel Landa, we haven't mentioned him. Another option. So that quick step. Expecting great things from the likes of Ilan van Wilder, but Mikel Landa able to hang on in here. Sergio Higuita. Had a bit of a return to form of late, isn't there, for the man who was second overall back in 22. Kelderman, a former podium finisher as well, at the back of the group at the moment. The UAE riders just have to track along. Narvaez, after his Giro d'Italia stage-winning heroics, sits number 7 on the tail of Felix Grossschartner. Grossschartner arm aloft, and they also have Brandon McNulty in this group. Grossschartner 11th last year. Has run top 10. It's almost 2,500 meters of elevation gain today on a stage of just 147 kilometers. Indeed, just 144 kilometers of racing. It's a little bit of neutralized on top of that, but yeah, it's only 144 kilometers, and yet 2,500 meters of elevation, and most of it in the second half of the stage. Demanding day. Well, we heard from Andrea Baggioli at the outset of the day, and the man from Sondrio said, you know what, I think this is going to be a GC day. Any question that some of the punchers could survive this one have proved to be somewhat idle speculation, really. Already, GC is firmly establishing itself. 40 kilometers remaining. 2 tough climbs among them. We've kind of reached the lower slopes of that long drag. It's going to take them up to a relatively long descent. Yeah, the next 6 kilometers, 6.5 kilometers are at 4.3% for our leader out front. Carapaz not quite at that point, but that's 6.5K, more than 4%. It's not insignificant, is it? And we've got a relatively long descent. It's going to take them down to 25 to go. And another little uncategorized ramp to be got over, and then our final 2 categorized climbs of the day. Second of those, and indeed the 4th climb of the day, 4th categorized climb, that is the Bordigi. Short, sharp, and very intense. Still hanging on to his near-minute advantage, Carapaz, but it's not going north anymore, and he's still got a long, long way to go. Hang on clear of the rest. I think you need about 15 TV motos on a day like this. This is one of those days where you've got GC favourites and fine performing riders are all over the roads. I mean, it's not just a case where there's a big gruppetto forms behind a main group of favourites and that kind of waits to the final climb or the final couple of climbs to establish the pecking order. This one, well, there's just riders all over Lombardia at the moment. No need to stop. Carapaz needs to get his skates on. Maximum elevation of the day, by the way, the highest point we get to is about 850 meters. So we're quite a way below the, I mean, we've got serious climbs later in the week. This is a Lombardia style stage, not an alpine stage. We do, of course, have the solo time trial on the penultimate day. It's an opportunity for riders to fine-tune their performance on their time trial bike. Simon Dalby, by the way, that was for the Uno X Mobility squad, the Danish all-rounder. Pretty good climber. Another half minute in about the last 10k, a little bit more, maybe 15k. Added on to the advantage of Tadej Pogačar, who continues to look like he's out for a training ride. He's certainly enjoying himself. That's that busy style he has. He looks, I mean, it's a winning style. He looks easy on a bike, slightly sort of upright and across the top of the handlebars. Head down, shoulders rocking look about Richard Carapaz. Nonetheless, super efficient look about him on a bike. Now for the first time we're seeing that Richard Carapaz has got over a minute advantage, fully a minute and 5 seconds, make it a minute and 3, but the signals and the indications going in the right direction still for this Ecuadorian. The head of the EF Education Easy Post squad. It includes Vincenzo Albanese, Marco Bellocchi, Darren Rafferty, Luc Lamperti, Marijn van den Berg, Colby Simmons. Meanwhile, Felix Groschartner, grateful for the presence of the team bike, and he'll grab a couple of bottles because there's plenty of representation in this second group. I think he gives you a sense of the strength and depth of the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad, because they have just got a string of riders, any one of whom could potentially be a team leader in any of the other squads. Tadej Pogačar I've mentioned. Tim Wellens, we've seen his great work, and he's left it up to Groschartner, McNulty and Jonathan Narvaez to represent in this group. And then to do the donkey work is the big classics engine that is Niels Pollitt. Domen Novak as well will certainly not be found wanting. Been with Pogačar, his fellow countryman, for many years now, and what a talented rider he is. So I mean, all through the UAE squad there's just so much ability. This is Tobias Foss coming back, the Net Company Ineos rider, Norwegian time trialer, another good all-rounder. I remember a stage of Tour of the Alps, not that far from here, a little bit further across to the east of northern Italy a few years ago, and Tobias Foss, maybe the weather suiting him a little bit better on that occasion, but he's another very, very talented all-rounder who can get over Some very grippy climbs. Sergio Higuita in the blue of Astana, just in front of Tobias Foss. Higuita, a man who's performed with great distinction in this race in the past and is starting to find a bit of form. Finished 11th overall in Tour of Romandy after non-finishing in Basque Country. 2nd overall in the Alula Tour at the beginning of the year. Impressive flexibility. Carapaz continues to pour on the coal and add to his advantage over the chasers, albeit it's relatively small increments. The gap to Tadej Pogačar is just going further and further away. Well, it'd be interesting to get Richard Carapaz's thoughts on whether that blackboard is making for grim reading or very encouraging reading. I'm going to opt for the latter, actually. I suspect he's going to be happy enough with the way things are going at the moment, even if he doesn't necessarily ultimately hold them off. Just this signal that he's come off his training block and after that medical procedure, clearly in fighting form, ready and willing for a bit of a hit out. Speaking of which, are we going to see a hit out from this this group of chasers? Landon Van Wilder in here for the Soudal Quick-Step squad. That was Van Wilder just rolling to the front. And a little bit of cooperation. It would appear that they've kind of put the band. Andrew Augustin as well as Tobias Foss. So useful representation for the Net Company Ineos team. Matthew Riccatello has Tish Benoot for company. Vacek is joined for Lidl Trek by Andrea Baggioli. So a lot of 2x2 situation. 3 riders for the UAE that aren't chasing at all. Get a free spin through to the last couple of climbs. Then you've got Primoz Roglic, who's flying solo for the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad. No sign of Finn Fisher Black today. Maybe just a little bit too steep for the New Zealander, as indeed it has been for quite a few of the other punchers today. Got to have your climbing legs on for this one. Finlay Pickering and Paul Double are the double acts, if you will, for the Team Jayco Alula team. Wilco Kelderman solo representation for the Visma bike squad, and Simon Dolby, who's the Uno X rider. Oh yes, and just one Astana, that's Sergio Higuita. That's your 17 rider chase group behind this man, Richard Carapaz, who in turn is behind Tadej Pogačar. Further back, I think there's a chance actually there's going to be a little bit of a swelling in size of that third group on the road, or the big group, probably the biggest group in there. Well, I think there's a very good chance that the group, including Enric Mas and others, have got to join up with those first main group of chasers, because they, as you see from Primoz Roglic just floating to the back here, there seem to be no intensity, but there seems to be a lot of intensity about their effort. Out to 117, the advantage for Richard Carapaz. And shout out to our heli pilot and the Cineflex camera operator. Fabulous images. Motos 1, 2 and 3 as well. Superb team, tough day for them to maintain the right position. Tish Benoit now is filmed by Fadri Comps and Albert Hoerleman. I'm not sure which is the rider. I think it's probably Hoerleman is the rider. At any rate, both top professionals in their field, giving us these great images as Tish Benoit does a job for Matthew Riccatello and for the Decathlon CMA CGM team. Not to be left out, we've 4 motos out there, as you can see. Need all of them. Gander and Leaker. I did at a recent race actually get on to one of the motos, TV motos, and got onto the pillion, carried the camera, and just sitting on standings in a static situation on that moto and holding the camera and trying to twist into the various different angles that the camera people are required to be in for extended periods of time. Remember, it's hours of this. I mean, it's the camera needs to be relatively heavy, and it certainly was. It was my little pipe cleaner T-Rex arms were certainly challenged by the sheer mass of that camera. No gel required, all about. Oh, we do well to hang on to that one, will Mikael? Oh, I think it's gonna go. Is it gonna go? It's oh. Good save, but I tell you what, you might have to go back in that pocket. That was agonising. Off Sondrio today. Beautiful place to come and ride a bike, by the way. There'll be lots and lots of sight. We've been here for a couple of days just preparing for this event, and there's just a huge number of bike riders, leisure cyclists, soaking up the atmosphere, the brilliant weather, the fabulous roads, and of course the great thing about big time World Tour bike racing coming to the region is that quite a few roads have been resurfaced and we've got a new ribbon of tarmac. And it's a billiard table. A little bit of patchwork quilt about this one, but through that series of bends without any great challenge, providing a bit of stimulus to Tadej Pogačar at his work. Picking out the right line, and everything we heard about this stage is being revealed, isn't it? It is a really tough and challenging stage, up, down, left, right, but it's the twisty, technical nature of the roads as well. And this is another example, isn't it? Down a little descent, straight into an upward drag. Just old school, old style bike riding. You can't just look at your power meter all day. Not that they really do. They can sense it. They know. They already know, don't they, without looking at the dash. But, well, some have been known to do it. And it's a pink Cadillac up to support the boss, or the team boss, if you will. Richard Carapaz, team leader, at any rate, of the EF Education Easy Post. Tello. Looking pretty great in this summer sunshine. Second bite of the cherry for the fans at the side of the road. Kelderman hits the front. Despite the fact that he's the only representative of the Visma Lease bike squad, the 35-year-old Dutchman just wants to take command here. And Kelderman, of course, one of those, I mean, he started Giro d'Italia, didn't quite get what he wanted out of it. On starting in Cosenza, he was one of those riders who was afflicted by that that illness that seemed to sort of run through the bunch. How many different riders were affected? And that can happen. So Kelderman drew a line under the Giro, had a hit out in Circuit Franco-Belge last week, and now he's refocusing his hopes and dreams on Tour de Suisse. He's got Tour de Pologne coming up after that. No plans, I think, for a trip to France for Wilco Kelderman, not part of the Tour de France group for the Visma Lease bike squad. Guess he comes up with a monster ride this week. Who knows? Who can tell? At any rate, happy enough to ride in that group. And the gap between Carapaz and that third group on the road continuing to increase, out to 145. Superb ride here by the Ecuadorian. Still losing a little bit of time to Pogacar, but what would it have looked like had he been able to latch on to Pogacar? He was one of the last riders up, wasn't he? Didn't get involved in the battle for that bonus second, so Carapaz found himself chasing from further back, and it was a little bit of an ambush at that intermediate sprint by Pogacar. Clearly on good form today. I mean, he started to stop losing time, if you know what I mean. He hasn't lost any appreciable amount of time to Tadej Pogacar in the last, 5 or 10 kilometers. Let's see if it settles down a little bit when we get off this descent. Get a better sense of how the gaps are being managed and maintaining, but I just get a feeling that Carapaz is, and that's, I suppose, the pattern that we've seen so many times from Tadej Pogacar, that he'll open up a huge gap, it'll stabilize for quite a long period of time, and then very often, somewhat depressingly for his rivals, they then start to increase again closer to the finish line as the others start to wilt a little bit and then maybe look at each other in the tactical fight. 1-on-1 for glory today. Let's see whether Carapaz can maintain that gap or maybe even close it down a little bit in the remaining 26 kilometers. Jonathan Narvaez cruising along at the back here. '29-year-old Ecuadorian. Couple of stage wins at Giro d'Italia. He's not the national road race champion of Ecuador anymore. Just lost that title to Kevin Navas. Almost unusual to see him in a UAE Team Emirates XRG sort of playing costume, isn't it? And what a thrill. You wait all day for the bike race. Well, of course, they'd have had the women's race earlier on today. I'm not 100% sure went through this particular village. There was a different length race, and there was a slight variation in the finishing loop. But at any rate, they've waited a long time to see this race arrive, and when it does, you've got the lead cars and motorcycles come through. Big flurry of excitement. The announcement of the race coming. They've got a publicity caravan that goes in front of this event as well. And then when you finally see the first rider, who is it? None other than the reigning world champion and the biggest star in world road racing, Pog himself, Tadej Pogačar, clear of the field. What a thrill. And I was going to say the only difference between this and a training ride for Tadej Pogačar is the fact that people are filming him not all the time. But you know what? I mean, there are that many photographs online of Tadej Pogačar out for training spins, throwing a bead on here or there, and for the most part, it's a great experience that he has with the fans and that interaction with bike racers and bike fans the world over. Not always, but almost always. Richard Carapaz threads his way through another one of these impossibly gorgeous northern Italian villages. Kicking down gears in the moto, supporting him. Smooth progress for Carapaz. And the gap down inside 2 minutes for the first time in a while. Again, we'll see how that settles down once the descending, you know, once the sort of the leader and his nearest pursuer are on similar terrain, then you get a better sense. It tends to stabilize a little bit, but I have a feeling that Carapaz still looking really good here. Could well be closing the gap, albeit it's a bit of a stretch to imagine that he's going to get on terms. Now, what are we looking at here? Is this someone finally had enough? Baggioli, maybe? Wants to pitch for a big result on home roads. Says he reckons he knows every hairpin, every ascent, every descent, and you can be sure he's fired up for this one. Huge opportunity. Sondrio, of course, as I mentioned in my opening comments, has played host to Giro d'Italia on 12 previous occasions. First of those was back in 1939. Most recently, 2008, Andre Greipel won a stage ahead of Mark Cavendish. I would venture to suggest it was on vastly different terrain. You can find a flat road around here as well. Greipel, great sprint star that he is. You'll always have Sondrio. Van Wilder at the back of the group here. Soudal quick step man. Happy enough to let others tread a path down. 26-year-old Belgian. Patchy year for him so far as well. On finishing at the Basque Country. Not able to get round for various reasons. Tirreno Adriatico either. Amstel Gold, his most recent appearance in a bike race. So Van Wilder, an awful long period of rehabilitation and preparation for ultimately Tour de France to come. Baggioli, 27-year-old, won Gran Piemonte in the neighbouring region of Italy in 2023. And Mark Hirschi on that occasion. Super talented rider, second in Il Lombardia in the same year. Second, of course, to Tadej Pogačar, who's gone north. Gone for good? Oh, we'll see. You wouldn't bet against it right now. Hard to imagine anything other than a Tadej Pogačar victory today And that would be utterly delightful as far as Felix Großschartner and number 7, Jonathan Narvaez, would be concerned. Well, the gap between first and second on the road at the moment out to 2 minutes and 8 seconds. 3:18 back to another host of general classification favourites. Grateful to our colleagues at Pro Cycling Stats for the information about the biggest final time gaps between first and second in the history of Tour de Suisse. And well, there's a gaggle of them out. As far as 20, the biggest ever was Gino Bartoli to his fellow countryman Bresci in 1947, 21 minutes and 16 seconds. I don't think even with Tadej Pogacar's extraordinary dominance we're going to have a final time gap between first and second of over 20 minutes. Nonetheless, could find him infiltrating the top 20. Top 20 includes, well, the smallest gap in that top 20 is Urs Zimmermann beat Cassio da Silva back in 1984 by 2 minutes and 18 seconds. I think there's every chance we could have a bigger gap than that between first and second in general classification by the end of this 5 days of racing. And it is only 5 days. Back then, of course, they had 10 days of racing to further extend the advantage between first and second. Now, a bit of climbing in prospect. We are about 3k, pretty much exactly 3k indeed, to the foot of our third climb of the day. Ponte in Valtellina. We'll start with a bridge, I suspect. Through 20k to go. Tadej Pogacar flying to glory today, unless something remarkable happens. Richard Carapaz has stabilised that advantage. Did come within 2 minutes, but since they both hit the slightly flatter road, you get a realignment of just a smidgen over 2 minutes. And indeed, Carapaz's advantage over the group behind is also diminished slightly. That's, of course, as a result, I suspect, of that injection of pace from Baggioli, Andrea Baggioli. Baggioli's gone on a push. The rest of the riders, though, are what? Pretty much exactly 2 minutes behind Richard Carapaz. So he's continuing to put time into that group of favourites behind. This is stunning and a great ride here by Richard Carapaz. And indeed, pretty good ride too by Baggioli. So he opens up 40 odd seconds, 43 seconds advantage over the chasers. So he's very quickly slightly eaten into the advantage of Carapaz and put a fair bit of daylight between himself and the chasers behind. Can he sustain it? Are we going to have 1, 2, 3 solo riding to the conclusion in Sondrio today? Carapaz, he went for a pretty, I think he was just slightly concerned with his shoulder against that building. Went for a pretty aggressive turn in there, just had to make a slight adjustment. Had plenty of margin. Squeal of the disc brakes, I think, from Baggioli. Oh, it might be the motor. That's a super technical descent, but a beautiful surface. And the riders will be grateful for that, and indeed for the good weather. Pass pretty good at the moment. Ponte and Valtellina beckons for Tadej Pogacar. He's going to be first to see it. 1,400 metres at 9.2%. Well, he's a remarkable winning machine, Tadej Pogacar, and he hasn't won yet, but he has taken, again, another great stat from PCS is that he has taken 25 of his career victories in Italy. Could be a 26th coming up today. Unless something remarkable happens. On to our penultimate climb of the day. Ponte e Valtellina. There's the bare statistics. Average of almost 10%. And these shorter climbs are steeper. In many ways, although they're rated a Cat 3, they are as demanding as the Cat 2 climbs that preceded them. Not as many points on offer. But it's a further opportunity for Tadej Pogacar to demonstrate his superiority over the rest. Will the legs respond? And indeed, we'll get a better idea whether Richard Carapaz can survive for second on the day ahead of Andrea Baggioli, and in turn whether the local Sondria native is going to be able to fend off the chasers behind to at least record a top 3 finish on his home stage. Epic. Well, Baggioli has almost a minute now on the chasers behind. He's getting a good signal. He'll be thrilled with this. Vaguely frustrated, I suppose, the presence of Tadej Pogacar and the fine performance of Richard Carapaz. But in actual fact, he's within a minute now of Carapaz. I wouldn't rule out Andrea Baggioli potentially getting on terms with Carapaz. Let's see what it's going to look like at the top of this hill. But at the moment, the graph is going in the right direction for the 27-year-old Italian. All three, indeed, of our first 3 riders are on the hill at the moment, albeit Pogacar close to the top already. Another hole of mountains points claimed, and a guarantee indeed of the lead of the mountains classification at the end of the day. Again, not the primary objective. The vista out over Sondrio province through the sultry heat haze. And Richard Carapaz starting to toil a little bit on the climb. Controlling a 49-second advantage now over Andrea Baggioli. Plenty of support for the Ecuadorian. The local fans not entirely partisan. Wonderfully objective in their support for all riders. Carapaz toiling in the late afternoon sunshine as the sun lowers in the sky slightly. Shadows lengthen a little. Fagioli's progress continues unabated. Indeed, Carapaz has leaked a bit of time to Tadej Pogacar on this climb, but I'm not sure this man has. Similar progress, similar injection of effort, a nicely timed effort this indeed from Andrea Fagioli. The victory seems unlikely with just 16 kilometres remaining, but a fine result, fine career result nonetheless from the local man, the fired up Sondrio native. Still very much in prospect, in a bid perhaps for push for GC. You're on a mission. .44 seconds now for Richard Carapaz. He's glad to have that one behind him. He knows there's another climb to come. Well, and there's a little bit of a sort of valley road, flat valley road as well, which will give us a sense of what these riders are at. They've got about 4.5. Once they come down the descent, they'll be at pretty much exactly 10 kilometers to go. And then at that point, there is about 4.5 kilometers of pretty much pan flat road before we get into that final climb of the day. We arrive onto the climb. With 5.5 kilometers remaining, it's just a smidgen over a kilometer in length. Be 4.5 from the top of that climb down to the finish line in Sondrio. Final kilometer is ever so slightly uphill, just the tiniest hint of a ramp. But I don't think we're going to get much of a contest between the riders. Right now, it looks like it's going to be 3 solo riders. I'm not so sure, though, that Fagioli might not necessarily just be able to get up to Carapaz between now and the conclusion. He's got another climb that's going to offer an opportunity. Continues to put plenty of daylight between himself and this group. This group vanquished on the road today. He'll reset and go again. Hikita toiling. Andrew August as well, number 61. It's been hot work for them today. Mikel Landa. And even those that are there to support, such as Jonathan Narvaez, must feel like they've been in a real battle. Just a little bit of an extra injection of pace across the top of the climb. Haven't entirely given up. They find themselves, what, about 124 down on Andrea Fagioli. He's continuing to increase his advantage over this group that he was formerly with. Again, he'll be slightly frustrated. I mean, he was with Pogacar, wasn't he? Albeit briefly, but there was just nothing that he or the rest could do. When Pogacar took his leave of the rest on a climb, you just can't sustain that level of power knowing that you're not quite over the top. Not a case of just sitting in the wheels, sitting in the slipstream. There's that level of power and you're on a climb. You've just got to let him go. Let him go and do his thing. And that's what he's doing today. He's on the descent that will take him down to Short Valley Road. Got about 4k of this. Got to wind and twist his way through the villages and very narrow roads, as I say. And then he's got about 4k before he heads into the final climb of the day. It's a languid style, isn't it, from Tadej Pogacar? He's got his advantage. Relatively no-risk strategy here. There's a little look down through these sweeping hairpins and just thinks, oh, that's where I'm going. If he stopped to take a selfie to support his his Strava contribution, I wouldn't be at all surprised right now. Well, I would be surprised. Stranger things have happened. Very twisting and series of switchbacks here. Not much of a gap between the rocky hill face and that iron railing on his other side. So taking too many risks. A little bit further back. Richard Carapaz knows he's in a fight just for second. He's stabilised the sort of rate of capture to a certain extent. So Carapaz might just have enough in hand. And he needs probably all of at least 45 seconds, I would suspect, going up and onto that final climb of the day. Potentially an opportunity for Bagioli to gain on the run to that final hill on the flatter road, that 4K stretch in the valley. Carapaz continues to defend his situation. All hopes and thoughts of stage glory today long since put behind him. Bagioli now what, about 35 seconds behind? Another stretch of tarmac that will be familiar to he and possibly to he alone. Team cars behind, of course. They'll be having a look at fellow viewer. They'll be able to zero in on this descent and have a look at the hairpins to come. Meanwhile, he's off the climb. He's on what is fundamentally a flat road. I mean, it'll just level off a little bit very shortly through Piaterra and then prepare for the final climb of the day. Gap out to 4:35 already. It's an absolutely massive advantage. And remember the time trial to come on the penultimate day and the big mountain queen stage. Stage 5, Villars-sur-Olon. And the Col de la Croix. Three times up it, or well, twice up the entire length of the Col de la Croix on the final day, and they've got about half of it to do twice, bottom half at the end, and top half at the beginning. Picking up the riders behind. Now, are we going to see any action from this group on the final climb of the day? That's going to be interesting to see whether there are any riders that want to try a Bagioli, if you will. Bagioli down to 30 seconds behind Carapaz. He's coming. He's surely coming. Bagioli against Carapaz now. It's going to be a fascinating battle. gap between Carapaz. He's through Piatera now. The leaders up front. Our school kids are out and having a great time. There was a huge band of school kids at the finish line earlier on. They saw the women's race. There were all sorts of extra activities. Great festival atmosphere. Something I mentioned earlier on, by the way. Through the Lidl sprint, second through there. The points on offer for the points classification. Pogacar, of course, has claimed the maximum points there. The maximum points to the finish line. It's one of these bike races, by the way, where there's often, well, I mean, there's not much for the sprinters, so the GC contenders and the breakaway riders often carve up the points classification. In years past, of course, Peter Sagan was able to represent for those who could sprint, but also as such an all-rounder, he tended to sort of spend weeks and months of his lifetime wearing a black jersey for the points classification. These days it's blue, by the way. Lidl sponsoring that one. Pogacar, Carapaz and Bajoli claiming the top points through the Lidl sprint as we make plans for the final climb of the day, the Bordigi. Yes, basically the fact that you've got to start and finish in exactly the same town leads to a wonderful festival atmosphere around it. You've got the presentation of the teams and riders. We had that yesterday as well. There was a big sort of presentation, the opening of the event, if you will, and then today the riders all came to sign on, and we had two helpings of it because there was sort of the women's race. They signed on the presentation, then they headed off for their race, which was completed, and then the same procedure happened for the men as we see Carapaz through this right-hander again. Super committed effort, took it all the way out, didn't manage to maintain all the momentum he would have liked, still trying to stop the bike far beyond the apex there. And that gives you a sense of just how urgent the situation is, down to just 20 seconds advantage. Bajoli will very soon be in sight, and I suspect that that pink Cadillac will have to get back or forward. What a promenade it's been for a man who is making his bow in Tour de Suisse. First appearance in the race. There was huge excitement from the organisers about the fact that the greatest man of our era and potentially of all time in racing, in road racing, was including Tour de Suisse on his programme. Formerly, of course, the Criterium de Dauphiné, and recently Tour of Slovenia have been final preparation events for Tadej Pogacar for the Tour de France. But this slots in very nicely in the calendar indeed, and is, of course, a major addition to any rider's palmarès. And for Tadej Pogacar, it is super important that he adds to the number of bike races, the number of different bike races that he wins. He does go back to certain races with great frequency. Again, I'll point you towards Lombardie and Tour de France. And it's a Swiss flag that is presented to the Slovenian superstar Tadej Pogacar onto the Bordigi climb. Absolutely beautiful, isn't it? The familiar signals that we're in Italy. Piaggio pickup and the modern Fiat 500 through this village, and all of the villagers here, they know exactly how demanding this ramp is. For Pogacar, makes it look like a flat road. .24 seconds showing on the clock between our second and third riders on the road. The rest are in a battle for the also around positions in the top 10. And Carapaz actually had, I mean, it's probably worth noting that while Bajoli looks like he's going to get on terms potentially with Richard Carapaz, close to, if not on the climb itself, Richard Carapaz has maintained the gap to Tadej Pogacar and is putting himself into a position for a genuine battle for overall honours in this race. Time trial is probably not something that he'd be exactly looking forward to, but nonetheless, any faltering by Tadej Pogacar and Richard Carapaz is at least maintaining a position within touching distance. Look at the crowd here on the climb. We've been in and around Sondrio all day. It's only about 4 kilometres from the finish line here. So as I say, many of these fans here will have seen the rollout for both races, will have seen the finish potentially of the women's race as well, and now getting to see the master at work. Tadej Pogačar out of the saddle, and the gradient tells or at least the fact that he's out of the saddle tells the story. Well over 12% here. It's a 12% average, 1,100 metre stretch. It's a grippy one. Fabulous crowds here for the first stage of Tour de Suisse. Everybody wants to see the greatest of his era do his thing, and he's across the top of the final climb of the day. He'll plunge down and try and look after that 2-minute advantage all the way to the finish line here. Stage honours seem assured. Even a moment there for Pogačar to take in the fans at the side of the road. He's maintaining the gap to Pogačar here and putting a bit of daylight into Bajoli. Bajoli may have shot his bolt slightly. The local man actually starting to lose a bit of time here, and Carapaz, the 33-year-old Ecuadorian, all his experience, knows he's in a battle but has saved a little bit for the climb. Bajoli, well, wait till you hear the cheer that he'll be getting as well. Huge number of fans here from further afield, but there'll be plenty of local fans too. And they're spilling out of the local cafes in anticipation of the arrival of Tadej Pogačar and also their favourite son. Gap going out slightly to Pogačar, but remember he's on the descent. That'll stabilise again by the time we get to the finish line. But at the moment it looks as if Richard Carapaz has maintained his effort against Tadej Pogačar for much of the day. There's really been little to choose between them. Sort of increased, went out to 2 minutes and maybe 10 or 12 seconds. This is the most it's been. Did it go out to over 2.5 minutes? I think it may have done. Give him a cheer and give him some space. Richard Carapaz at his work, and fine work it is indeed. I suspect he'll be thrilled with this. And of course these days as well, riders finding, with obvious exceptions, and we have seen that there are riders that have wilted a little bit in these demanding conditions today. The whereabouts exactly right now of Antonio Tiberi, Lenny Martinez and Alfonso Lalio. You wonder what's up with the Bahrain Victoria squad, really not represented in the chase group at all, and plenty of hope. So one wonders whether they've come down from altitude and haven't been able to recover, or whether there's a bit of illness in the camp. Something we saw in the recent Giro d'Italia. Again, all speculation, absolutely zero information on that one, but nonetheless, difficult day for the Bahrain Victoria squad. Difficult day for plenty of teams. For EF, though, I know they've got pretty good representation here at the front of this bike race. 2.5 minutes behind over the top of the climbs. Did lose a little bit of time there. And big cheers for word will have come through. Andrea's on the attack. And the sheer thrill when they see that it is their favourite son, Andrea Bajoli. Oh, well, he's about 25 seconds down. He didn't lose a lot, did he, on Carapaz? Settle in. No time really to relax and take it in. And even for Tadej Pogačar, well, he will, I suspect, adopt a more conservative approach on this descent than Carapaz and Bajoli in pursuit. They're in their private battle for second on the road here. For Pogačar, well, he wants as much as he can get for GC, of course. He's not going to be just stopping to smell the heather. He'll be riding the, I don't think there's much heather around here anyway, but at any rate, he's not going to be taken in the sights. Across the bridge, a couple of roundabouts to come. Through the underpass and on to glory today. Gordigi is behind him, and he's within 1,600 meters of another sensational success. Tenth of the season. 100th in his career already. Does this take it to 101? They fight about what's a pro win and what isn't, but nonetheless, it's glory. Time to smile at last and take it in. The job is done, for now at any rate. 4 tough stages in front of him, but he's got an absolutely yawning chasm between himself and the rest of the GC contenders. And his first visit to Tour de Suisse is actually his 3rd successive victory in Switzerland. Indeed, his 3rd successive win in road racing. 4th if you count the fact that he's got the overall from Tour of Romandie to go with it, and now commanding lead in the senior Swiss race. Of course, this isn't in Switzerland, is it? So it's, we can't really count this as a 3rd successive victory in Switzerland, but at any rate, we'll work out all that confusion. It is his 10th win of the season, and it is glory. They're banging the boards to bring him home. The world champion has delivered, and he's just going to take a moment to compose himself. Not going to ride for every single second of GC. A commanding performance. He'll soak it up. He's given the crowd what they expected. It's glory for Tadej Pogačar once again on stage 1 of Tour de Suisse. 10th win of the season. And look at that, 41.5 kilometers per hour with 2,500 meters of elevation across just 144 kilometers of racing. Plenty of time for Pogačar to compose himself and to prepare and to reflect on the day as Richard Carapaz continues to battle to ensure that he maintains this 2nd place. I think the job is done, really. He will ride it to the line here to limit his losses over Pogačar, and perhaps more importantly to ensure that he retains as much of an advantage over his nearest challengers. Bajoli, well, he'll push in the mountains from here on in. He's not just given the Sondrio fans something to warm their hearts. Let's go to the left of this roundabout. I actually have been through this roundabout several times over the last couple of days. It matters not which side you go. Bajoli, yeah, has got a little bit of daylight in the rest of GC riders, so I suspect he's going to push on through the days to preserve his situation. Potential podium finish, certainly it's potential top 10 at World Tour level in prospect. And once again, for the 2nd successive year, we're seeing breakaway riders carve it up and create an interesting GC on the first day. What's different about this one, though, is that the pre-event favourite is the one that has broken away to glory. Well over 70 kilometres clear of the field. And Tadej Pogačar is the winner on day 1. And 2nd place, back after a layoff. Richard Carapaz for the EF Education Easy Post squad. Just a smidgen over 2 minutes down, lost very little time towards the end of that stage, and Richard Carapaz delivers a fine performance in 2nd. Bajoli just misses out. What a fine fight it was. Great match race between those 2 riders over the final 25-30 kilometers. But it's Bajoli that will take 3rd and gets an extra special cheer from the local crowd. And takes a moment to acknowledge their support. And he certainly, as the local rider, has honoured the region, honoured the province, and honoured the finishing town. The time to wait before the arrival of the rest of the riders. And now it does appear as if Primož Roglič has taken his leave of the rest, so we're going to have a 4th solo rider on the road. And we're going to have a 1-4 finish for Slovenia. Making his debut in the event. Primoz Roglic, the 36-year-old veteran. Goes clear, riders all over the place. Look at it, the UAE battalion next to appear. So Roglic is actually south of this group at the moment, so it must have been quite the battle on that final finishing climb. We didn't get to see it. Vacek is going to open up the sprint here. More top 10 delight for the Lidl Trek squad. He's not going to be the one to deliver on this occasion, though. Van Wilder, it is, I believe, it gets up for that position. And now the rest of the group behind. It's Roglic actually behind this group, so for a moment we thought Roglic was actually riding to fourth on the day. In the event, not quite what he would have hoped for. And Primoz Roglic knows he's been in a bike race today. A few seconds leak to the rest of those, that group of favourites behind. Number 4 minutes 42 down on his fellow countryman. What a scrap that was. Simon Dalby for the Uno X squad. He's given an excellent account of himself today, and clearly there was quite the battle on the Bordigi climb between the group behind, but well, no doubt about the winner. Pogačar at this point will be fully prepared for the victory podium. He's got most of the jerseys to collect, points, mountains, and the overall, as well as stage honours. Just the matter of the leading young rider who... I think we caught up with Tadej Pogačar. He's had a moment to think about what was a great hit out. Went long range today. Once again, it paid off. Let's hear from your stage winner.
Well, Tadej, congrats. What a spectacular first stage win here in Tour de Suisse. You made it look so easy. How was it?
Oh, it was hard. It was really hard. The parcours was, yeah, the start was easy. Was everything under control, and then, yeah, with the first climb of the day, it was already super hard just to go up. But yeah, Niels and team did amazing pace there. And yeah, we take after the bonus seconds, and after me and Brandon, we look at each other and say, let's go. We try something, and from then on, we just went. And yeah, I didn't have radio at that time, so I didn't know what's going on in the back. So I just kept riding hard, and then when I see once I knew the gap is quite big, I could set into the rhythm and try to hold it to the finish, which was super long and really hard, but was also at the same time quite technical, so it was really nice to be alone.
But what were your thoughts on this long solo ride?
Yeah, I don't know. This was definitely not the plan, but yeah, somehow it worked. Thanks to the teammates, I think, because without them blocking in the back, setting the pace before, this wouldn't be possible.
Tomorrow, second stage, first stage in Switzerland. What are the plans for tomorrow?
Yeah, stay safe and keep the jersey. And yeah, we have a strong team. We can try to go for the stage with Johnny, Brandon, or Felix, or anybody else in the team. And yeah, we see how the guys feel. And after today, we talk and we see what we do tomorrow.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, one tribute paid indeed to his teammates. Blocking behind, I think so much of it was done by himself, but it was an absolutely... it's interesting that he says that it was not planned at all, but it was a frenetic pace set by Tim Wellens on the approach to those two sprints, Tissot sprints, which of course proved to be a launching pad, a little bit of a gap. And McNulty right with them, and they just decided they'd go, why not? But clearly not the original plan, but though it was an absolutely titanic pace being set, and what a launching pad it proved to be. And what is the plan? Well, the plan is to defend the jersey. Will stage wins come with that? Clearly happy enough if they go to teammates. Don't rule out the possibility that Tadej Pogačar claims more glory for himself and for the team during the week. Time to reflect, no pressure on him whatsoever. No, didn't feel the need to ride it all the way to the line and get every single second. He's just so confident. And the wins come, I mean, you know, he was asked, you made it look so easy. He said it was hard. It was hard, but he made it so much harder for everyone else. There's confirmation of the finishing order at the conclusion of our first stage of Tour de Suisse. Tadej Pogačar by 2 minutes and 14 seconds from Richard Carapaz, who fends off Andrea Bajoli by the scant margin of 15 seconds. Ilan van Wilder up for fourth. Vacek nicely, handily placed 3-5 finishing order for the Lidl Trek squad, and the rest of the group of favourites, you'll have to call them now. Let's remind ourselves of the key moments in a wonderful first stage of Tour de Suisse. Early break of the day, two riders up front, Cedric Boulens and this man, Frederik de Versnes, who survived longest. Took the two Tissot sprints and the 3 bonus seconds that went with them. A little bit of a scrap behind, with Tadej Pogačar eager to scoop the two. At the second of them. Springboard to glory, ultimately. Still at this point, almost 74 kilometres remaining. And following that sprint and on to the first classified climb of the day. Pogačar finding himself with a little bit of daylight on the rest. Why not? Soon race clear. De Versnes overhauled with imperious ease. And then it was a 70k solo ride to glory. Even from the earliest moments of this attack, the victory somehow seemed inevitable. Well, they settle in to a battle in pursuit of Tadej Pogačar today. With each and every one of the climbs from then on claimed by the Slovenian superstar. Richard Carapaz went in pursuit, dissatisfied with the pace of the group behind. And the Ecuadorian, after his layoff, proving to be in flying form, as indeed was the Sandrio man, Andrea Bajoli. Plenty of support in the team car. Through the Lidl sprint. And, points towards the points classification. Maximum haul today. Pogačar. Bajoli versus Carapaz seemed to be going the way of the Italian for a while. He quickly closed down the minute and 40 seconds to within 20 odd seconds. And over the Bordigi final hill. Pogačar with no sign of wilting, despite the amount of time he'd spent out front. home to the finish line. Well over 2 minutes to the good on day one, with plenty more opportunities to show his class over the others. 10th victory of the season for Tadej Pogacar. So it just remains to make the presentation of jerseys to the... there's the situation on GC. Pogacar with 2 minutes and 22 seconds with the bonuses over Richard Carapaz. Andrea Baggioli handily placed in third. Ahead of Van Wilder, Vacek, McNulty, Kelderman, Grosschartner, Riccatello, August and the rest through the top 20. Plenty of riders with a story or two to tell. Narvaez continuing his good Giro form. Nikita Landau thereabouts, double climbing well today. Benoit, great work for the decathlon squad. Primoz Roglic, maybe not quite what he'd hoped for. Liam Slock though, after his great victory earlier in the week, clearly on flying form.